What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey YouTube channel, episode 19 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Iacovone, joined as always by the one and only Jack Smith. If you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure to smash the subscribe button, hit the alert so you never miss a show. For all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you're first in line when the newest episodes drop. If you're catching us on Twitter or Facebook, head over to YouTube. Give us a subscribe, say hello in the comments, give us the like. Helps with the algorithm, gets us in front of more eyes and more ears. Flyers Flyin High, the name of our episode, riding a 5-game point streak, coming home after their after their little away trip for a game tomorrow night against Detroit. And then they're back on the road, taking a trip to New York. Jack, Phans of Philly, taking a trip up there. What can you tell us about Phans of Philly?
Phans of Philly. Flyers fans, we've got something special for you today. Looking to take your game day experience to the next level? Then look no further than Phans of Philly. With over 14 years of experience, they're the go-to team for putting together an unforgettable travel packages for die-hard Philly sports fans. Why Phans of Philly, you ask? Let's break it down. These guys have spent years building the best relationships with bars, hotels, teams, transportation, you name it. Every trip they plan gets better, and trust me, they'll make sure your experience is top notch. Whether it's scouting out the perfect hotel, finding the hottest nightlife, or securing the best seats in the arena, Phans of Philly has it all figured out. They know how to make your next trip an absolute blast. So head on over to fansofphilly.com. That's fansofphilly.com and book your next Flyers road trip today.
Yeah, and that New York trip came up pretty quick here. So Phans of Philly, you guys know all about them by now if you listen to our show. Excuse me. Give them a follow on Instagram. Give them a follow on Twitter. They're taking a bus trip up to New York. They do things right, quite frankly. So head over to fansofphilly.com. You see their site there and sign up. Take a trip with some fellow Flyers fans. Make a couple friends. Have some good food. Have a few drinks. And you'll be back home that very night. We mentioned Flyers on a 5-game point streak, Jack. Kind of back in the mix here. They had a little bit of a lull going, but a nice stretch starting with the Cutter Gauthier game. Flyers obviously won 6-0. Things kind of carried over into the Florida game. They win 4-3. They unfortunately lose to Columbus, who's a team almost directly in front of them in a shootout. They still gain a point. And then, as we know, they took on the New York Islanders, a team that they're going to play a total of 3 times this month between last Thursday and the 30th of January. And I want to talk about that game for a second, Jack, because I wonder if that game sort of springboarded the Flyers even more. Like, they had some momentum after the Gauthier game, and then a tough little road trip here between Columbus, the Islanders, and then obviously they beat New Jersey on Saturday, which was another, impressive win. We'll talk about that in a sec. But the Poehling injury, the hit itself, I want to get your opinion there. What did you think of that hit? And obviously Ryan Poehling, as we all know now, is on the IR. Flyers called up a player. We'll get to him in a sec. But I want to know from you, Jack, what did you think about that hit when it happened? And what did you think about the response?
When it happened, I couldn't believe it wasn't a penalty. Like, even if you go back and look at it, and you could see that he did hit shoulder first, but still got some head after that. Never mind. And it's
got you.
It hit me as I said it.
Took me a second.
Yeah, and I can't fix the light. I'm getting distracted. Anyway, yeah. So I couldn't believe just the way it looked. The helmet goes flying off the player, and it's like I knew he was in a vulnerable position where he was to get hit there, but I didn't think anybody was close enough to really do any damage, and that's where the whole predatoriness of it came in. And ultimately, that's what he got suspended for, 3 games. But when they reviewed it, I thought for sure they were going to get something, and they came out, no penalty. And it's like, oh my God, are they serious? And the Flyers basically responded exactly how everybody felt. Like, are you kidding me? Torts is going off. And they definitely that game could have went off the rails, but it didn't. And the referees kept it tight, calling penalties on the Flyers, but they came out of it. Actually, they gave up a goal, but they ultimately came out of the first period okay. And then they really took over that game. TK specifically, there's a universe where he hits that boards and he gets stretchered out. He barely turned his head in time to not take an injury. And he came out. They were already down a man. So he comes back out, and he really wills them to victory. That and the really impressive play of Noah Cates. But yeah, the hit itself, like it definitely, I was a little surprised with there's no penalty in the game that it got 3 game suspension. And part of that was I think the Flyers may play the Islanders during those 3 games, so kind of makes sense to keep them out for that return, I guess.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. Like they reviewed everything. Like they reviewed it to see if there was, any malicious intent, and the guy didn't even get a penalty. And then they review it, I guess, after the game, and they decide he gets 3 games. Like, not even just 1, or 2, but 3. Like I thought that was pretty.
It's a lot.
I mean, the hit it looked bad to me.
Oh yeah, initially for sure.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting. I liked the response from the Flyers. I liked Joel Farabee got in the lineup, and I liked his response. I think he picked up a couple assists in that game. But I liked his response from a teammate perspective. I happened to catch his interview in the car after the game, and he said something like he was trying to fight Siplikov throughout the rest of that game, and he wouldn't fight. And he had some choice words for him, which, it wasn't your typical cliche hockey interview after the game. You could sense the emotion and the frustration. They had their teammates back, and if there was any question, I think that if is this team a close-knit group? Do they have the culture that we hear about so often? To me, those questions were answered, not just in the Cutter Gauthier game, but once again against the Islanders when one of their teammates was quite literally taken out of the game. I really appreciated their response. I think, and I'm also wondering if Siplikov not accepting a fight maybe benefited the Flyers because they used that as fuel for the rest of the game, as opposed to, maybe he drops the gloves and it's done and over with.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I was thinking that as you were saying it, I'm like, yeah, he should have fought. I mean, it would have been brutal, but I mean, now he just looks like a sissy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the Flyers are ramping up. It's not going to stop now.
Yeah, he should have took his medicine. Quite frankly,
100%. Yeah.
So, Flyers with a big win over the Islanders, who are behind them in the standings. Flyers do a good job keeping them back there. I mean, the Islanders are still a big, tough team. I don't know if they have guys like Horvat and Barzal up there and whoever, but they're a team that I think is also going to be in transition pretty soon here. So the Flyers extend their point streak Saturday with a 3-1 win against the New Jersey Devils. They held the Devils to 13 shots on goal. Flyers blocked a shit ton of shots, frustrated New Jersey throughout the game. New Jersey scored on the first shot of the game, and it's kind of like, oh boy, here we go. But to quote the great Mark Zumoff, they locked all windows and doors thereafter. And I want to talk about Sam Erson's play a little bit here, Jack. Are you back to feeling confident about Erson? Do you think this has been enough to say, okay, it's kind of right in the ship here a little bit?
As far as the results are concerned with the games, yes, but I'm not quite there yet. I want to see a little more consistency. He was cheating on that one goal against the Islanders. I think it was Barzal had like a bar down, and he makes that save there. He's got to be more timely with his saves. I know that's like easier said than done, but like it would have been at that point of the game like a very timely save, and he was cheating for the pass and he got beat, and it's like can't be doing stuff like that. Ultimately, I'm satisfied. I shouldn't say very satisfied. I'm satisfied with the play. You get this team mediocre goaltending, you can see what they can do. Like they are a pretty decent team, a lot more reminiscent of last year when the goaltending is steady. So that's all you need from them, and that's what I'll take. I'm almost there. I need to see some more sample size because this team as a whole, but it seems like it goes through the goaltending. Each 10 days, it's a different team we're talking about. It is a roller coaster. Like they'll go on a nice hot streak, and then all of a sudden they lose a couple, and this guy gets hurt, and and it's amazing because Twitter is just trade this guy. This guy truly sucks, and he's not consistent. We overpaid for him, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Mishkov's back in the Calder. Kate's the greatest thing ever, and I expect if they can actually keep this going a little longer, then I'll feel better as a whole. But it really stems from the goaltending, because I think the last time they went off the tracks was Urson's injury, and then the backups coming in and all that fiasco.
Yep.
So, I want them to stay healthy. I want them to stay good. I want the backups to come in and not be a lost game. The team can keep the confidence up, because when they play with confidence, they're a lot better. Like the efficiency of our third line, which is now definitely our first line of Cates, Brink, and Forrester, has been like one of the best in the league. I saw stats where they're just underlining numbers, and they're like in the top 3, if not 1. And they're not playing with that confidence. The goaltending is shaky as anything. So Erison's definitely the best option to give them the best chance to win, and it's showing. So as long as they can keep it together, they hopefully can get on more of a roll here.
Yeah, for sure. And they're going to have more opportunity to keep the good times rolling. I don't want to say it's not necessarily an easy week. I don't think the Flyers are sort of that team where you could say that they have an easy week. Does that make sense? So, it seems like every team that they're going to be playing for the rest of the month, it's either a Metro Division team. Well, actually it is. 5 of the next 6 games are against Metro Division teams, all from North Jersey and New York. And then they have the home game tomorrow night with Detroit. They've been off since Saturday. They come home for a game. Detroit's a team that's battling with the Flyers for a wild card spot. And then obviously we'll get to the rest of January. I don't want to jump the gun here or anything, but a tough week coming up for the Flyers, a chance to make up some ground, not just in the Metro Division, but in the wild card race. So we'll touch on that. Let's get to our topics here. So we're talking Flyers are hot. We talked the Paling injury a little bit here. We talked a little bit about the goaltending. I would like to talk just a little bit more before we move on about, I don't even know if it's the third line on paper, really, but that line it's really doing some damage, Jack, in the Cates, Brink, and Forrester line. And I put out a tweet earlier today because it made me think, like, before the season, when we talked, what's the Flyers' biggest weakness heading into the regular season? And obviously center was one of those things. It's been the center position for a number of years now. And we're seeing what good center play can do for wingers, right? I think Michkov's a very good player, and he's going to be even better. But when you have a center that can do what Noah Cates is doing for guys like Forster and Brink, it makes them, these guys are going to feed off of that. Everything kind of trickles to the wings. But Noah Cates, we were wondering last show, is this actually Noah Cates? And he just continues to perform. Tyson Forster putting up points. Bobby Brink with the big goal against New Jersey. I'm still not opposed to moving Bobby Brink, but he is playing very, very well on that third line, right, Jack?
Everybody is. That third line's incredible. Noah Cates is just doing everything. Like he makes that play happen on that power play go ahead goal, and he's always there. His forecheck in the offensive zone is awesome. Like he is straight up lifting a stick, stealing the puck, and passing it out to somebody. Like he's dangerous out there, and he does everything. Like he's exactly what you thought he would be. And going back to last year, like he was the year before that, he was actually pretty decent. Last year, he has the injury. I think Torts said he actually had struggled to get back into it because he had missed so much time and then had to find his place. Where this season, he was a healthy scratch for Luchenko. Like he wasn't even playing full time. He didn't start the season with the team. He was on the roster being played. And now he's a key piece to this season. And that's what they wanted from him. I think we all kind of threw it out of our minds when we heard, based on what we saw last year, where the front office said they want to see more offense out of Cates. And I just feel like now, not only have we seen the offense with however many points he has in however many games, but everything he does is just a pleasure to watch. I truly like having him out there. Like I'm talking about pleasantly surprised. That's why last week when people were saying the Fly, that's what I'm talking about. They have a rougher week. It's a whole different conversation. Oh, that everybody's regressing. You really feel that way? Like the way the team is playing, the way that Cates is right now? that whole line is just everything you'd want. And if they are going to move a guy like Brink, which I'm not running to the phones for, but if he's a part of a deal, that line's going to make him and his value look awfully nice.
Yeah, for sure. So get some numbers for you guys real quick here. Noah Cates is now up to 21 points in 43 games, and he was off to a slow start. Beginning of the year, that was my concern. Playing Luchanko over Noah Cates, it kind of put the Flyers in my opinion, like a stall type start, right? Because we were kind of waiting to see what the hell was going to go on with Luchanko. In my opinion, he wasn't ready for the NHL from the start. It was sort of a unnecessary experiment. Maybe, it's good they got him experience, but at what cost? It's a team sport. There's 21 other guys on the team kind of thing. And Noah Cates had to sit because of that. And if you remember, Noah Cates was sort of the 13th forward in training camp. So I don't know if he had a rough camp and had to come around. Still getting over the injury, what have you. But I don't even Tort's even saying that he thinks there's more there with Cates. I'm not sure I believe that. And all he's doing is proving people like me wrong that he does. 21 points, 43 games for Noah Cates, rising up the Flyers point chart here. Bobby Brink also has 20. The whole line. Tyson Forster had 12 goals, 22 assists. Bobby Brink, 6 goals, 15 assists, 21 points. And you know what it is? You have a goal scorer on that line in Tyson Forster. You have a setup guy, more of a distributor in Bobby Brink. And then you have a guy that can kind of, I don't want to say do it all, but he's good at a lot of things. Good defensive center, can get to the net, obviously put pucks in, and he's cashing in on assists when guys like Forster can put the puck in the back of the net. It's just a well-balanced line, and it's making a difference for the Flyers.
I mean, that was well said, especially everybody's role. The only thing I'll add is I feel like Cates' role is he's just really excelling, and it's really making everybody good because he's just he'll just get you the puck so they can do what they got to do. He just, whether it's a offensive turnover, whether it's just winning board battles, never seems to give up on a play. They always keep things alive when you think, oh, they're going to bring this out. They press the forecheck, and all of a sudden it's a loose bouncing puck. This guy was surprised, and something happens. I mean, they're the team's second power play as well. Like that when they score. That's that line with a different, Ristolainen and Sanheim. I forget. But like, yeah, exactly. It's the same. That's how much they feed off each other and how perfect they are and how balanced they are. The balance was exactly how I would have said it. And just that with Cates' rise is really the whole line. It's the best line on the team, and it has been for quite some time.
Yeah, it's going on at least 2 months now. It's
if I'd have told you at the beginning of the season, the Flyers' best line would not have TK, Michkov, or even Frost on it, would you believe that? Would you have believed it?
No, I wouldn't have. No.
Like, none of not your skilled guys, not really. Like, yeah, Forster's a goal scorer, but compared to the other guys, like, wow. And I'll take it because it's 3 young guys on this team.
Yeah, this is what they've needed. Things. If we're going to get anything from this season, at least let's let the roster kind of take shape and let things work themselves out a little bit, and hopefully they have something with that line, and then you figure out something for a Michkov line and something with a TK line. The goalie thing, hopefully, knock on wood, is starting to straighten itself out by default, because I don't believe that any of these goalies are as bad as they've been. So even if they just give you average goaltending, like you said, things should improve there. Power play has improved even just a little bit. So yeah, things are kind of just chugging along, and hopefully we're starting to figure some things out with the roster here. Dave chimes in. That line works their asses off, and they sure do. They kind of Bobby Brink has surprised the hell out of me this year, Jack. I got to say.
He surprised the hell out of me last year.
Yeah.
I don't know where he came from. It's been a pleasant surprise. What can I say? Because you know how I felt about that draft. So I'll definitely take it. And you know what? If they move him in a deal and we get something really nice back, obviously with something else, great. If he stays, fine with that too. You need players like this.
Yeah. Eric kind of chimes in here. So if there is a move or whatever, you pop Michkov on that line with Forster and Kate's,
Sounds like they want
maybe,
to move. They want to move Kate's around. It sounds like, and I could
interesting.
definitely see that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, that gets like you can't break up this line though. Like unfortunately, somebody would have to get hurt or something. But I think they really want to get Michkov going. So Kate's and Michkov, I could see. We'll see. It's hard to break them up.
Yeah, and here you go from Vinny. He kind of hits the nail on the head there. Brink's skating has improved, not so much straight line, but his edge work is really good. And
that was
it's
one of the knocks on him.
Total night and day, man. Total night and day difference.
When he was drafted, the scout actually said hate his skate. I mean, that's obviously dramatic, but you never want to hear that, especially when we've drafted out of the Strome family, and they just apparently skating is just not their thing. And, things didn't work out for the Flyers and Matthew Strome. So, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of it. You got to say the development and the coaching this time around, this rebuild, retool, whatever the hell you want to call it, compared to the previous, is obviously doing a lot better.
Yeah, guys are starting to surprise you a little bit. And I think as fans, because for most of this year, there's been a lot of frustration. And, every loss, guys want to trade the entire team. They want to bust Danny Briere's balls for not making moves.
Somebody's out there, we don't get them.
And then you have
stocks.
Yeah, you have Briere saying he wants to evaluate the roster. Like, it takes a little bit more than a year and a half to know what a guy is, especially a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid. Like, we gave Morgan Frost, how long has he been here? 6 years, 7 years?
Some of the 80s, I think.
But we want to pull the plug on some guys. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's
That's
just
a roller coaster. Like, remember I brought it up. I'm like, earlier in the year when Forrester got off to a slow start, people were putting him in trades for Juracek. Or that was the ask. But people were, for him, for other players, like, they were ready to cut bait. Like, Jesus, we loved him last year. You're done? A slow start? Like,
short memories, yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. We'd have already traded Cates too at this point, going by last year. I mean, that's where my frustration sets in, and I'm just like, how do I? It's not, Rome wasn't built in a day, but like the second either all the kids aren't playing or somebody's not, that regressing thing blew my mind. Like, everything it's the worst possible scenario here. I think people are just so jaded to the previous regime or something.
Yeah. So here's a couple things for you that I wanted to bring that up. Like, well, let me say this first, because a lot of people will tell you, and you're a proponent of this, development's not linear, right? Sometimes you take a step forward, take a step back, and then you take 2 steps forward again. Like, they're learning. Everybody wants a rebuild and wants to play the kids, but if they're not a superstar in a year and a half, you got to reevaluate here. You know what I mean? And these are the people that all over the fucking timeline, and people want to get everybody worked up, and it's like, holy shit, you asked for this.
It amazes me because people will say all the same things in the off season about how it's a slow development and, guys are going to come along. And then the second anybody plays bad, it's like they're not a part of the future, the solution, move on, cut bait. It's crazy, man. If their overall doesn't improve every year, it's a fail. Just move on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the other thing I wanted to mention, like, and tell me what your thoughts about this. So whenever there's a new GM, for me, he gets a clean slate, which is tough, right? Because you kind of have to reset as a fan, unless he's Chuck Fletcher and, comes out and says, we want to add to the roster right away. And he signs, friggin' guys like Kevin Hayes and whoever else. Then once a guy comes out and tells you this is what we're going to do, he needs to be held to the fire a little bit. But my point is, when there's a new GM, a new regime that comes in, he gets the clean slate. It's only fair. You can't hold against Danny Briere the sins of the past 10 years, the sins of Ron Hextall, the sins of Chuck Fletcher. You just can't do it. So, and that's the shitty part, especially so years ago when I didn't want to rebuild, it was because I was fed up. I was tired of waiting. I wanted it now. Right. And so now that the rebuild is the plan, it's kind of like, all right, well, we're in this, like, let's see the plan through and let's not rush anything, skip any corners, whatever. And so that's where I am. I think some of the loudest people on Twitter are holding the events and the trades and the misfortune that took place over the last decade and they're taking it out on Briere, and it doesn't make sense to me at all. What are your thoughts on that? Do you kind of reset with the new GM? Like, I know it's hard because it's been so long since the Flyers have had a legit home playoff game that wasn't the bubble. It's been a long time. What are your thoughts, Jack?
Well, first off, you said you think they hold the past against the sea. They literally call Briere Hextall. Like, it's that bad. Like, Hextall 2.0, here we go. It's just everything's linear. He's doing everything he did to a T. His inner circle is going to get smaller. He's going to tell the alumni to screw off. You know, like, it's unbelievable. Like, they see one comparison and just off to the races. Yeah. So, yes, you're 100% right. I don't think it's just that, but I do think they're very quick to jump back to that. And it's a shame because, and then the word rebuild alone is a trigger word, because the first rebuild, which was not a rebuild with Hextall, whatever that was not a rebuild. We never did a full rebuild, although people will tell you we did. It's like, that was like the Hextall into the Fletcher era. That was like the Justice League, you know, those movies, not like Marvel. Marvel did it nice and slow. It took a lot longer, but you know something? It was freaking amazing, wasn't it? It was, when you do it right, not like Justice League, like Marvel did it. So anyway, that's off topic, but like for me, yes, clean slate, 100%. He's new, unless he's some kind of protege, or, you know, he follows the GM everywhere he goes, unless it's something like that. And even then, I still give him benefit of the doubt. But something like Danny Briere, who I feel like he just got into it a couple of years ago. Then he's, you know, they're sending him around. And once the rumors popped up from Montreal, I was like, they might bump him up soon, especially with how bad things are going for Chuck Fletcher. So how could I not give him a clean slate? I don't think was Chuck Fletcher's like number 2. He's been followed he was in Minnesota with him or anything like that. No, this is a Flyers guy already here. And just from most GMs, I can't tie them to anybody else, because that's why, if you truly believe that, then why would you fire one guy and just hire another just for a retread? Mm-hmm. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. You have to give them a benefit of the doubt, that you hear what they have to say. Like you were saying, we know why Fletcher was brought in here. We know why Hextall was brought in here. Now we know why Briere was brought in here. And they made that very clear. And has Briere lied? Like, why are people turned? Like, has he done anything that he said he wasn't going to do? He's been pretty transparent. I haven't seen any issues. Sorry, things aren't working out perfectly, but, you know, if they were, we'd have had 3 cups by now. Like, I understand it's been a year though. Like, I think that's what people like, oh, well, it's coming up on 2 years in what, like May, something like that. So, you know, something that we see as a multi-year rebuild, because if you remember how we were talking about this team when Fletcher was still here, how bad things were with the contracts, it was going to be a build. So we know we got to wait. But because of last season, it's completely combobulated everybody's view on what they're supposed to do, even though they still sold at the deadline like they were supposed to. And people are still hard on Briere for not making certain trades, when it just comes out with Elliot Friedman that, like, no, first for Sean Walker, he's crazy. He gets a first for Sean Walker. Like, yeah, okay, he took back the contract. I do that every day of the week, that deal. You know, he got a first for Provorov, technically, too. You know, I mean, has everything gone perfectly according to plan? I doubt it, but I can't look at what he's done and what he might do and just reflect back to somebody else. Like, that to me is very unfair, disingenuous, and it screams from the crowd, the negative crowd. They just like being negative.
Yep.
And because you can't lose. If you're negative and the Flyers start winning, well, who cares? The Flyers are winning. If you're negative and the Flyers continue to suck, well, you were right. You know, so like, you can't lose. It's a coward way to follow the team. And at some point, you have to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, you can't just hate everything. It's just stupid to me. So otherwise, you're just well, I won't get into it too much, but go ahead.
Well, no, I just try to keep it real, and, you know, I kind of, if I don't understand something, I bring it on the show. You know, I like to know your opinions and your thoughts and the listeners' thoughts and opinions, and we're getting some good stuff in the comments here. And
well, this is one thing we didn't mention, how good they were last year. Then you bring over Michkov as well, so that's got people thinking, well, we got to make the playoffs, or we should be close, which they still could.
Don't even get me going with that, Jack, because I got stuff I got to say about that too.
Uh-oh.
I think it was our buddy Anthony Chapman, I want to say, put up a list of players in their prime, and most of the guys are between the ages of 25 and 29. I believe they were all centers. And I've said it on our show. I think I got going a little bit, maybe a mini rant about, yeah, Michkov's 19 years old. He's going to have 2 years left on his ELC. He's not going to get paid his big time contract on his next deal. Sure, he'll be making $4 or $5 million, something like that. But he's not going to get the 9, 10, $11 million deal till his next deal, right? Till he's 25, 26. That's when he's going to be making the big contract money. So what kind of like drives me nuts is some of the accounts that are out there. They need to get Michkov a center, like I'm yada yada. And it's like, dude, we know that they need a center. Everybody knows the Flyers need a center to pair with Michkov. We know that it's not on the roster. Why does it have to happen now? And why are you tweeting it every day? He's 19 years old. He's going to have a center. And Dave, get off X.
Put it up. Yeah. I've used that word, haven't I?
Like Christ, man. God willing, the kid's going to be here for 15, 16, whatever it is, 17 years. They're going like that. I got to believe that's their number one priority, is to get a number one, number two, a legit top six center, and to pair him with Matvei Michkov so that they can maximize his ability and potential. Like if you don't think that this is something that they're exploring and trying to figure out every day, you're delusional. I don't know what else to say. But it doesn't happen overnight. I don't know, man. I think people complain to complain. Overnight. And it's like sometimes
it's too long of a wait. Like when we talk in the off season, everybody's usually on the same page to some degree. Nobody's really radical. And but once the season starts going and you realize the team before they're truly pushing for a cup, it's like 2-3 years away. You just get complacent and you start just complaining about everything. I've literally seen this happen with prospects, like who are in college too long. Like, I think it's called like the Matt Leinart effect. Not that he was some great NFL player or anything, but he was like the number one prospect for like 2 years. And by like the last 6 months, people were just shitting on him because you talked everything positive. You're just ready for him to go to the NFL. And sure enough, he fell from 1 to 10, 11 he was drafted. So, yeah. So it's just like, I feel people get complacent and it's not happening fast enough. They're bored. And then a little bit of doubt starts to creep in when things don't go your way. It's going to be when we go on a losing streak, like they lose like 3 or 4 games or get 1 point in 3 or 4 games. People are like, who's number 3rd in the draft? We're getting it's at least we'll get it high. Like, it's like, Jesus, chill out. This team is changes like week to week. You know, like things could get turned around, players' healthiness and all that stuff. Yeah. And it's you get complacent, doubt creeps in. It's a couple of factors, but some people just like the content.
And negativity sells, man. Right? Like that's
always.
If always. So I find it hard to be that way. So I try to keep it real, and I hope I'm not pissing anybody off. I'm not yelling at anybody. But obviously, people can say whatever they want, but it's like, oh my God, you give it a rest sometimes.
Look, if the Flyers do something that pisses me off, you'll hear about it. Yeah, I'm not. I have friends with certain franchises, like they're company men. Like, I swear they're a card-carrying member of the team, the way they defend him. I will not do that with this team. If something I think I've proven that. If something pisses me off, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah.
But like to just take the negative, the forever, they'll suck until they don't, and then I'll get on board, it's just bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you want to argue that, hey, they're in purgatory again, they're not a bottom 5 team, and there's a chance they miss the playoffs. And if they do make the playoffs, they're probably a first round exit. So it's like, you're not getting a top prospect and this and that. I believe that, I'm saying if somebody wanted to argue that, okay, that's fine. But I think that they're really preparing for that possibility of just barely missing the playoffs or a first round exit. I think that's why they stocked up on, they have 6 picks in this coming draft for the possibility that, hey, we're going to finish in the middle of the pack again. Let's stockpile some picks and see if we can end up moving up and grabbing one of these young centers in the draft, or even, trading for it for a player. Vinit says Marty Nietzsche is a UFA after this year. Maybe he's in play. I don't know. That speeds things up, certainly.
I'm sure some people, I mean, not that I don't like the player, but it's not really there was questions on whether he could be a true number one center at all. He is talented, so I'm not going to push it out, but I think people would just be happy if the three did anything like that. For me, I'm obviously still in the trade market for a younger player, but I don't know. We'll see what they ultimately do.
Yeah, for sure. Jack, let's switch gears. You want to bring up that comment there about what the hell is that guy? Shabanov?
Oh, right. So if you saw Flyer, and it, for me, I just like that they were listed as a potential team. I saw somebody wrote the Michkov effect. He is Russian. Does make a lot of sense. It's Maxim Shabanov.
Yeah.
Maxim.
Shabanov.
Just like the magazine, spelled the same way. Maxim. Yeah, so apparently he's been killing it. Russian. I believe he's a left wing. Flyers were listed with a few other teams that include the Islanders, the Penguins, Toronto, and Tampa. And I believe there's more than that. But look, we just need talent. I don't care how we get it. And if he's Russian and wants to play with Michkov, we'll be obliged to make that happen for you. So maybe there's something to that, or maybe somebody was just wishful thinking. But the Flyers were listed on that list. I think they were like third on the list. So it's good to be in the running again, because usually we were nowhere near anything, players of this nature. If Briere were to, no matter what happens with this guy, even if he sucks, but if Briere were to go get this guy and if it costs the team nothing, dude, Twitter would freak out. There'd be a lot of people changing their minds, or at least backing down for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I got a little scouting report on the guy if you guys would like to hear a little bit about Maxim.
You found something besides highlight reels?
I kind of just want them to sign him just so I can say his name on this show every week. Shabanov. Shabanov is recognized for his high skill and offensive capabilities. Despite his smaller stature, he's demonstrated consistent scoring ability in the KHL. Notably, Torto loved this. He scored a lacrosse-style goal.
I thought I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. Well, while Shabanov's offensive talent is evident, his size is considered below average by NHL standards. Flyers kind of have a smaller team already, so that's interesting. The factor may influence his transition to the NHL as teams assess how his skills will adapt to the league's physical demands. Shabanov is a skilled forward with notable achievements in the KHL, garnering interest from NHL franchises, and his future in the NHL will depend how teams evaluate his potential to adapt his game to the North American style of play. And it doesn't say what position he is. Let me just hockey DB him real quick, because it would be nice if he's a center, but I thought I read that he's a winger.
I thought I read he was a winger as well.
Which, yeah, it would kind of, I don't know how that would work out for the Flyers.
Yeah. I mean, if he was a bona fide center, I'd be freaking out a lot more.
Yeah.
Because that is just, hello.
So he is Bobby Brink size, 5'8", 156, 24 years old. So he's done growing. But he's almost point per game player right now with Tractor of the KHL. He scored 50 points in 64 games last year. He could put the puck in the net. 25 goals last year, 18 this year. So I don't know. At least the Flyers are in the mix,
That means a lot. Seriously. Like, hey, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I feel like we haven't been in the mix for anybody like this since Paul Holmgren. So I'll definitely take that.
Yeah, looks like. Sorry, guys, I missed the comments here. 5'8". A lot of comments about the size. Yeah, so they're interesting.
Wing. So it'll make it work. If he's talented, just get talent. Just get talent. If you can get it, great. It's a free asset at that point. So I'm all for it. Please.
Yeah. Speaking of size, let's talk about the guy that the Flyers recalled. I think there was a couple comments in here. Eric wanted to know. Rodrigo Abels. So we did talk about this guy in the summer when they originally signed him. Abels is a big dude, 6'4", 206. I think he's having a decent season with Lehigh. I admittedly haven't watched much of Lehigh this year. I've been kind of locked in on the Flyers. But Abels is a bigger player. He has both offensive and defensive ability, not the most fleet of foot, but he's a responsible defensive player. And I'm wondering if they called him up because they have games against teams like the Rangers and the Islanders coming up. Maybe they want to plug in a bigger body at the center position. I'm not sure when he gets his first taste of action, but they have him if they need him, kind of thing.
That makes a lot of sense because I was looking at like who they could bring up, and I'm like, he's 29 years old. I was kind of hoping for a bit of a prospect of some kind, but it is the center position, so it's not like we're just full of those.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking like who else could have got called up. Zayde Wisdom apparently has been playing better, but no chance he's getting called up. Or what do you want to see? Rhett Gardner? I don't think so. No. So I don't know who. I think there was one other player people were mentioning. A lot of people wanted to see the Rocket Richard, but for the speed factor. But you could probably move things around. But again, I don't think there's much there at the NHL level. I mean, it was fun, but again, I wanted to see. Oh yeah, Jacob Gauthier. It's spelled a little differently. So I'm not. I don't think he's a winger, I believe. So, but he's a guy they signed to a ELC like I think before the season started or just after it started. So something he did they really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like they must have brought him up just for the big body. According to the scouting report here, he's a smarter player. I mean, he's 29 years old. He knows the game a little bit. Was a former 7th round pick, large frame. So I'm thinking like puck battles, maybe get him in front of the net. I don't think he's going to get a ton of ice time, so we're probably talking about him more than he's actually going to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, he's got 9 goals, 10 assists for 19 points and -5 in 34 games with the Phans.
Yeah. So it'd be cool to see him get a taste of some action, and hopefully he does well, but not expecting much from Rodrigo Abels. He is a Latvian national team player, so good enough to represent his country, even if it's a smaller one in Latvia. So that's cool. All right. What's next on our list here? We are going to talk about. We want to get into the season outlook, or you want to talk maybe the next couple weeks leading into February? We got the Four Nations Cup. There's sort of a 2-week break there.
Actually, there was a question in the chat asked by Vineet I wanted to bring up. Oh, good. You got the bar for me. Hang on. Let me find it. I want your thoughts on this, and I have thoughts.
Okay.
Come on. Where are you? Here we go. Okay. Of the RFAs this offseason, Cates, Forrester, York, and Frost. Are any of them, to you, Jimmy, deserving of a long contract? And if any, what do they look like?
Oh, man, I don't know. That's tough. Obviously, I don't think Frost is deserving of a long-term contract.
No, definitely not.
I don't know that I would go any more than 3 years with. So what's long-term? Anything more than 3 years?
I was thinking at least 5.
5 is long-term? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of these players qualify for an 8-year deal. So I'm thinking long-term for these guys, it's got to be the 5-6 range, maybe 4.
Then I would say no.
The only one I would consider is Cates because of this play. I need to know what that number is. I'm not going to give him anything. I'm not going to do 4.5, for 6 years or something like that. Frost is definitely a 1-year deal for sure. Like you have no idea what the hell and he's kind of the same guy we thought he was. Starts off slow, picks up a little bit, but never really freaks out until he does another year. We'll see. York's interesting because he's a guy that everybody essentially likes, but he's definitely, I thought he was our best defenseman going into this year, and that's not the case. He is still young though. It's not. He's
a second line D.
He's definitely that, and those are tradable. You don't want to overpay them. However, they are valuable. And maybe one day he unlocks his offensive game that we thought he had when he was drafted, and he becomes more valuable. I don't know.
That wasn't a knock either, by the way. Like there are a lot of good second line D, but that's what he is.
Everybody needs him. But like the idea, like I know going into the offseason, people were talking an 8-year deal with him potentially. And I can't remember some of the numbers, but that's quiet now. I don't see
crazy what a bigger sample size will do, right? It goes both ways.
Who's the sample size guy? I feel like I'm
not crazy.
pushing for that. Why would I do that? Forrester, I don't think so, not yet. I would wait on Forrester, but Cates is an interesting one, unless he wants stupid money or something. But he's a guy I can only see him getting. Like, I don't see him becoming a superstar, but I only see him getting better at his craft. Like, he just, whatever role he's put in, he's good. He knows what to do. He stayed healthy. He's really been especially how long he's kept this up. Like, he really hasn't slowed down for like 2 months now. I don't know what it would look like. I wouldn't, nobody's in that, 6 to 8 range for me, but Cates on a 4. How old is Cates actually? Got to make sure I know what I'm talking about here.
I want to say he's around Frost's age. 25, 26.
Excuse me, 25. He'll be 26 in a couple of weeks. So 26. So yeah, I say 3 to 4 year deal be nice for him. He might want to see what he can get or wait another year because he doesn't want to be 30 when he signs. It's like, it depends though. It depends on where you think he's going. So he's the only one I would offer a multi-term deal, at least even more than 2 years for sure. The other ones I'm holding out. I can live with one with York. Like that's just screams bridge though, like a 3-year bridge deal. Like the only one I can see getting more of a bridge deal potentially is Cates. I'm not saying it'll happen. Nobody else am I stretching that out with, but Cates, I could see them maybe doing something.
I feel pretty comfortable going 3 years on Cates, 3 years on Forrester, 3 years on York and Frost. I mean, if you want multiple years, man, you gotta. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
I
like
see
the potential. The point of giving him years for potential, I think, is long gone. I'm going to give you a bridge deal until you can prove that you're a 50-point guy, like everybody likes to say.
Yeah,
he's going to struggle to hit 40 again.
It's a quality middle 6 swinger.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of on the same page with Fancy here. No more than 3. And then Frost gets to 1, Yeah,
Frost is definitely 1. Bridge deals all around. If they did it with Cates, I wouldn't be that unless the number is outrageous. I can't. What's a good number? So
see what Vinit's saying here. York's going to be a UFA after next year.
Yeah, they got to make a decision.
This plays in my whole hey, York should be a trade option. He should be a guy that maybe you look to move. You have enough D. You have a lot of potentially second pair D. And it sounds like a knock when I talk about York, but he is replaceable. There's a lot of players like him around the NHL that you don't know about because he's just a good second pair D. Yeah, there you go. You can replace him today with Andre.
And it bonks in the system. They could draft more. Like, it makes a lot of sense if you're going to try to get something you need to dangle his name.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think more people are coming around to this when they think about it. It was funny. Remember we brought up the Zegras for York thing? Oh, you can't trade York. He's Chris Chelios.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just the nature of the beast. And I really do hope something's done. I'm telling you, Jim, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you disagree. Do you feel this? And maybe it's just, the lunatics on Twitter and whatnot. But this is the year that they have 6 picks in the first, 40. 3 of them first-round picks. Do you feel that Briere really needs to do something besides draft this year? Or are you still like, it's a slow process, he'll figure it out? But I normally would feel that way, but he has 3 first-round picks. A guy like York about to hit UFA, like other guys who you could get a first-round pick for Salina. Lawton's name's been constantly in trade talks. Frost could be in any deal at any time. Is this the year? Does it make the most sense if he were to do nothing and just draft with all those picks? But it set off some alarm bells. Like, Jesus, what are we going to do here?
No.
And that includes trading up in the draft. If he doesn't trade up in the draft, he just drafts where he drafts.
No, I don't think it does because we all know that the picks are later picks, right? And this draft is top heavy with centers. So number one, you need to find a team that's willing to move back, and everybody wants centers. So unless I don't think he needs to make a deal for the sake of making a deal. It needs to be the right deal. Like we've seen, like for example, Kevin Hayes, the Flyers needed a center. wrong friggin' player, and it set the team back. So I'm not at this point, man. It's like we're in this, we're doing this. Make the right decisions.
Would you look at it as a missed opportunity? Because I know it takes two to tango. You can't force a team to trade, but with the amount of draft capital they already have and the assets available, would it be a missed opportunity? It'd be great for the pool, the prospect pool, but would it be a missed opportunity to an extent to go get that guy, that proven guy, to be with Michkov, which I understand we don't need right away, but if there's an opportunity to get him, you want to have the ammunition. They have ammunition. Would it be a missed opportunity?
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be. I don't know what a trade looks like for who's going to trade a top 6 center for, late round, first round picks, even if
what
they're
if it was
packaged or future picks,
picks and prospects or players, look at a team. So like Vancouver, say they actually were Pettersson was fully available. Like, you could offer a package of help you now and help you in the future. Not to mention draft picks are universal currency. A team can take that and flip them for whatever else they want to add or need. You talked about York. I think Vancouver, you've seen Vancouver's defense lately. I'm sure they would like a player like York for sure, on top of whatever else you're throwing, a first round pick, a Morgan Frost, because it's a center going back, or
I find myself going back and forth on Pettersson. Yeah, he would be great with Michkov during the regular season, but and correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't he kind of go missing in the playoffs? And I know the Flyers have to get there first, right? But I'm kind of torn because, yeah, he would pop off in the regular season. It'd be great to watch him with Michkov, and he'd probably put up 90 points or so. And it's like, but then I'm like, I don't know, man.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think if the Flyers made the playoffs, that TK would have a quiet playoffs, wouldn't do anything? Do you really feel that way? It could happen, but do you really expect that to be the result?
See, that's a good question.
Because you would have said the same thing about TK a couple years ago.
Well, that's a good question because I wouldn't have expected him to not have any points in the last however many times they made the playoffs,
Growth is not linear, my friend.
We still do have to see TK produce in the playoffs.
Elias Pettersson's the same draft as Morgan Frost.
Wow, that is crazy to think about.
I mean, he could grow still. He could definitely still grow. He's a young enough guy. Checks a lot of boxes.
I'm on the fence for Pettersson. I think.
I'm saying he's available. But still.
No, I know. I got you. I just. That's what I mean. Let's not make a deal because feel like we're forced to make a deal. Is it the right player for this team, for the city? I think even in Vancouver, they give a guy like Pettersson some shit. Imagine that here. It would be amplified times 100. I'll read that comment there from Vinny. You need to throw out TK's performance from the last time they were in the playoffs. That was a bubble year. Yeah, of course. I'm not holding it against him now.
Liar.
Because things have changed a lot with TK.
No, I think we all have for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like the centers are definitely being rumored to be available. Zegras before, Rossi. It's just, if there's anything I can see igniting the negativity crowd, it's a center, a young center, potentially being available, and Briere not being involved in any trade. Now, luckily, these players haven't been moved elsewhere, and he missed out. And it could just be a preference thing. It's not our guy. But until something happens, this is going to be a huge issue. So, I mean, hey, they could trade up in the draft. That would still be something. But how often does your team have 3 first-round picks in a very nice draft? True. It is something. And maybe that's more reason to draft, to use all your picks. Maybe that's a counterpoint. But I don't know. I just think that teams that are there's got to be one more big trade from Briere at some point. Could be in 3 years from now. But it just seems like if it were to happen, that's an awful lot of ammunition. So I guess what you're saying, if it happens, it happens, but you're not holding his feet to the fire if it doesn't. Where reason I ask it, and I'm probably more like, I don't know, maybe doubt sets in a little bit. But we already talked about the crowd that absolutely eviscerates him for nothing. So something like that, kind of running it back next year, maybe certain different names in certain spots. I think that'll set people off for sure. But
it's going to be it's going to be a trade, and I think Tippett's name was mentioned, York name was mentioned in the comments. It's going to be a trade where somebody that we like goes the other way, because I don't think a team is just going to take on, picks and prospects and a Morgan Frost for, potentially their top line center. It's going to be a trade where somebody like Tippett or York or Forster or, one of these guys that we want to watch grow here goes the other way. I don't know if it's a Drysdale. I don't think Briere is going to be trading Bonk, his arguably best defenseman that he's drafted since he became GM. He'll trade maybe a guy like Emil Andre gets moved,
Stranger things have happened.
Like who's to say? Maybe the Flyers believe in Cam York and they see him as that defensive guy. So who's to say? I think it was mentioned. I believe Emil Andre could replace Cam York right now. But who knows? Like Emil Andre might be the more sought after player than Cam York. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not sure how they're viewed around the league. Yeah.
It's preference with the GM, that's where some deals come out of nowhere. You're like, who went for who? And other times you're like, what a steal. So, I mean, to answer my own question, I'm not as, I don't want the word's not optimistic, but like I wanted something that had be done last year and more so just trading of players. So we could, trading anybody. Like I thought we'd get something for Lawton that way, or young talent could come up and play because it's been a little bit of a cluster in that regard. But as far as things for the future, I mean, I guess I can't be upset with him having 3 first-round picks, if not more at all, and using them in a good draft and definitely targeting center. So it just feels like that rebuild's going to be quite a while, and it's going to drive people crazy, but you never know. So curious. Maybe we'll have 2026. We'll have 2 or 3 first-round picks. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? They certainly have, I think, guys that they can move for future ones, and we'll see. They right now they have time. Obviously, that can change quick. We'll see, but I don't think I'm at holding feet to the fire. And I certainly hope that I don't end up feeling the same way about Ron Hextall that I feel about Danny Briere. That I'll end up feeling about Briere. Because Briere was a guy that I really did enjoy watching. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I liked watching Hextall.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to feel like, oh God, I really.
It does suck.
It does suck. He's an asshole GM kind of thing.
Hextall was the first goalie I ever knew for this team. Like he was the goalie, and he was good. It's not like he, was just the guy. No, he was good. And he, even like coming up, like it was rumored, like he was doing really well with LA. He helped develop their farm. Those players helped win them a cup. Everything sounded right, but execution wasn't there. So far, what I've seen with Briere, it's hard for me to get too upset unless you're just impatient. Now, sure, could he turn around and do some crazy crap and screw us all? Like, yeah, I guess anything's possible, but I have very little evidence to suggest he's going to go that route, especially with how he's treated the fans and the team, and coming from the era where fans hated the front office and anything they were spewing, and they were a constant joke. Everybody up there, they're really turning over a new leaf to act anything like Hextall, which is like you might as well just put your papers in. Like I don't see that at all. It's frustration, it's boredom, and it's ridiculous. So again, the fuel's only going to be added to the fire if Briere doesn't do what I asked you. But at the same time, I get your answer, and I agree to an extent with your answer as well.
Yeah. I guess fortunately and unfortunately, they have time, fortunately because they can wait for the right move. Unfortunately, because Philly fans can't do a rebuild. No matter how much they say they want it and they can do it, they cannot. They just can't. Okay, but let's move on here because we're coming to the end of the episode. We mentioned the Flyers' schedule for the rest of the month here. They have Detroit at home tomorrow night, and then they head back up north to take on the New York Rangers, the Phans of Philly game on Thursday, the 23rd. And then they'll take on the New York Islanders for the second game of a back-to-back. That'll be a Friday, 7:30 start. I would expect there could be some fireworks. I know Siplikov's not playing. Hopefully Ryan Poehling can. I don't think Poehling will be in the lineup for that one either, actually. The minimum amount of days that you need to stay on the IR once you're on there?
I'd be guessing.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure one of our handy-dandy, trusty viewers can remember that one for us. And then they close out the month with a home game against home and home with New Jersey with a day off in between. They'll take on New Jersey next Monday at home, off Tuesday. That's when you guys will have us.
I can confirm.
Good, you have it?
Yeah, it's Vineet said he thinks it's 7 days. That's what I'm reading here too. 7 days on the IR. I was going to say that, I swear.
Okay, so he'll be out till about next Monday. So yeah, so they'll have.
I don't even know the length of the injuries. Hopefully that's all it is, but yeah, I guess we'll see.
It's true. So yeah, 2 games against the Devils next week. You know, the Devils will be looking for some revenge, but hey, chance to make up 6 points on the Devils in 1 month and 6 points on the Islanders in 1 month. They finished out the month with a home game against the Islanders. That'll be on ESPN Plus or Hulu. So a real chance here. 5 of the next 6 games against Metro Division opponents.
And Kenny is doubling down.
What do you say?
I believe the Flyers go on a good run like last year. Only difference, they make the playoffs this time.
Oh, that would be nice.
It would be nice to see some, although they're definitely selling at the deadline. They're still going to sell. So keep that in mind. I like the positive vibes. Keep that in mind, though, when Ristolainen and potentially Lawton get moved at the deadline. So, hey, yeah. I don't think they have that crazy fall off like they did last year, no matter what happens. I think it's more normal end to a season, whether they're in the playoff race or they're not. I don't think they just completely lose the last 8 of 11 games or whatever crazy crap happened.
Yeah. Well, maybe last season's experience will help them.
Hey, just as long as part of the process. I do agree with this. As long as the games are meaningful, I don't want them to be so far out unless they're looking at like a top 5 pick. But that would mean something really went bad. And it would be pretty cool if they could sneak in. They'd probably get, slammed, but whatever.
Yeah, they're currently 4 points back of the Ottawa Senators and Boston Bruins. They have a game in hand on Boston. Ottawa has a game in hand against the Flyers. And there are 3 teams in between. Columbus has 51 points. Montreal has 50. And the New York Rangers, who they'll play Thursday night, are tied with the Flyers for 48 points. The Red Wings, who they play tomorrow night, are 2 points behind the Flyers with 46. And the Islanders, who they play on Friday, are 3 points. So this is a massive month, a massive stretch of games for the Flyers. I don't think they're going to be putting too much space in between these other teams, but they can sort of jostle and maybe position themselves for a run in February where they do get the 2-week layoff due to the 4 Nations tournament. And so they have 4 games in a week, and they take on the Avalanche, the Utah Hockey Club, the first place Washington Capitals, and then they finish off against Sidney Crosby and the Penguins before being off for almost just about 2 weeks. And then it's a tough month, February, even though it's only 7 games. They'll have to finish off the month with Edmonton and back-to-backs against Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh 3 times next month. So that'll be fun. And then March is just a lot of games in March. So yeah, the rest of this month and February could very well set up how the Flyers finish the season. They'll have 7 home games. I'm sorry, they have 10 home games in March. So, dude, March is going to be insane. I'm not really looking forward to that, but
especially without Ristolainen.
Yeah. We should make bets to see if they actually do anything. I got a feeling
better. They better, Jim.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if they trade like an Eric Johnson.
Oh, Jesus. You know how high his trade value is right now, Risto? Like he's like starting to lead the team in time on ice. He's playing in every situation. Like you completely trust him with the puck. He throws his body around. Like he is going to be the number one defenseman targeted at the trade deadline. Unless I'm completely blanking on somebody who's like at the end of their deal or something like that, he's got to be the most sought after defenseman. And it's you think that the myth of him in the playoffs is powerful enough, the team will be lured in for him actually being in the playoffs.
Yeah. I get it. So a couple things. I guess this is where my head is. If the Flyers are going to be contending for a spot, it's going to be with Risto in the lineup. If you
Can't
take
lie
out
to the fans, Jim.
If you take out Risto, if you trade him during the season, that's a massive hole to fill.
It is.
And then
it is. I'm gonna miss him, but he's going.
And then
bon voyage.
And then Vinny mentioned something too, like that's an off-season deal. 3 years, $5 million.
You might get more. There might be more suitors. I agree with that part, but I don't think it's definite.
Hey, you get a chance to drive the price up a little bit. Teams can fit that $5 million in. You don't have to worry about retaining any money. If they retain money on Risto, I'll be pissed.
Oh, they're gonna miss. I agree. I'm gonna miss him. Like we're gonna miss him. That's why we're getting a first round and maybe more for him. He's got to stay healthy, baby. Stay healthy.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
And then in comes Hellsgren or Hunter McDonald or something like that. Get ready. Get ready.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. Those two guys have played together with Lehigh for a year or so.
It's another reason to move players off the roster. Like I'm always saying, why not get, especially if they get what they asked for? Like I really am going to, in about a couple of weeks, do a deep dive into what trade targets are going to be available. Because I really think Risto could be the top defenseman. The only thing that'll bring that down, or it might be one of those deals that goes down to the wire, is the term. But as far as the play, he's exactly what pretty much any team that needs a defenseman is looking for.
I'm just worried that teams are going to use that against the Flyers, and it devalues him a little bit. Because if you're trying to maximize value, you shouldn't have to take less than what he's worth because of the contract.
How old is it?
Because there's nothing wrong with the contract. It's a fine contract. It's just
how would that conversation go?
You're going to get teams that are saying we can only do this deal now if you retain on his contract, and it's like, well, we don't have to do that, so we can talk in the off season.
He's like he just turned 30 this year. He's not 35, that the length on that deal, what's it, 2 more years, like at a completely reasonable price with how he's playing. You could try to use that as a negative asset at this point, but I think it's going to fall on deaf ears. I really do. It's going to be like, look, I got 5 other suitors. Don't waste my time with this shit. Give me your offer, and I that's how he should play it. If you ask me, I mean, come on, I'll be blown away. God forbid, knock on wood, Risto needs to stay healthy. But if he's not moved at the deadline, because I can't see the Flyers saying, oh, we're going for it. They would be lying to the fans, and they don't do that. Proved it last year when they traded Walker. They do the same thing.
They're not going to say that we're going for it, though.
No, they won't. But, if they don't do anything at the deadline, that's a fail. That's a fail. And, look how bad Fletcher got roasted for not trading JVR. And he did. He got roasted.
JVR was on the last year of his deal, though.
Well, I mean, why wait? Ristolainen, you want to get out of that contract. You can get the rumored
because you might not maximize his value, and you might have to retain money.
How much more could you maximize? Now you're just playing with fire at this point. That was a detriment, that contract. This is he stepped in golden dog shit here with the Ristolainen's turn and play. It went from paying to get out of that contract to getting something significant for that contract. Don't tempt fate by holding on to him longer, waiting to get snake. Maybe I get more in the offseason. Then his play either trips off or he gets hurt because he got hurt all year.
Yeah, but he's not. I don't know where that's coming from either. He's not injury prone. He tore his tricep muscle.
But he's getting older. So when they get older and they start seeing injuries, that's a reason to offer you less.
Yeah, I don't think he's injury prone now.
I don't think he is either, but that does not stop a GM from saying something like, well, he's getting older. He missed most of last year. We're going to offer you less or something like that. I think teams get wild at the deadline, and they're getting that player that they're seeing now, not next year. And I think that's probably where you're going to get your best bet at this point. And then you're just rolling the dice after that. What if he gets injured? What if things change? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if you can do that based off what ifs.
No, you trade him now because if you don't do it, then you're playing what if.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the offer's right, I'm not against trading.
Oh yeah,
Risto.
don't move him for nothing. But if there's a first and you're not retaining any money, you got to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would probably be
You're
another
getting
late
greedy.
first, but it'd be a late first. Like I would want what I gave
First.
up for him and potentially more.
That's a little bit of a hard sell.
It's really not that much, though.
What 13th overall, a second, and a depth defenseman? That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
But Risto is a better
overall. How do you get something that valuable?
He's a better player now than when they traded for him.
He's also older,
but he's better.
Yeah, but who has the 13th pick to offer or a top 15 pick?
So it needs to be something asset-wise equivalent then to whatever that is.
If it's a first, be a lot.
Whether it's a first, second, third, like and a depth player.
I can see him getting another pick, but not like
something.
Not like 2 firsts, like 2 late firsts, not like that. I see a 2026 first and maybe something else. I don't know what that something else is.
Yeah, I would.
But if you offer me a first, just do it. You're out of the contract, and you got a friggin' first.
But it's not. That's the
thing,
though. It's not a bad contract.
Yeah, for a team that could use Risto. We're still
the Flyers could use them now.
We're rebuilding. We don't need any 30-year-old players. Konechny doesn't count.
But like maybe I'm misunderstanding though. Like I'm not just taking what I can.
What do you need? What do you need Risto for?
To win? What do they need him for?
They're rebuilding. You don't
right, but I'm not moving him just to get out of the contract, though.
No, that's if you're getting a first round pick, you're not just getting out of the contract.
But I would need more than the first round pick because he's worth more. That's all I'm saying.
Greedy. I think you're being greedy.
Really?
What if a team said, "I'll give you a first round pick"? You're like, I'm going to first and a third. First round pick, or that's it. The third is going to be the deal breaker for you.
No, I wouldn't. I would want more than the third.
Like what? A second?
Like at least a first and a second.
Yeah, maybe you get that. I don't know.
Because you're not. He's not just that. He's not a rental guy. Like I would want a pick for every year you're going to have him.
Well, you went from saying they're going to use that against you. I want a pick for every extra year they have him.
Yeah. I would use it to my advantage. Yeah, because that's what teams are going to do.
Good. I hope Barriere has the same mindset. I do. I don't see that happening. I think maybe they both start. I'll give you a second. I want a first, second, and a third. And they kind of meet in the middle somewhere with the first.
Yeah, give me the first and second and another Eric Johnson. Let's do it.
You can't just so I get what I want.
But you have the guy that people want, though.
That's
so you should get what you want.
Deadline.
So you should get what you want.
You can't get exactly what you want. That never happens. Because when does
that
ever happen?
Well, then it's like, all right, well, I have this guy for, but that's what I mean, though. Like, there should be no rush. Like, you have the guy for 2 more years.
I don't know. If you're going to older player, you're playing with fire. Why? Just take the pick.
If you're going to trade him for a first, just wait 2 more years. He'll be worth the first.
You don't know that. What if he gets injury prone? What if he hurts his knee? What if he has injury?
He's never been injury prone.
But when they get older, things start to happen.
He's going to be 32 years
old.
What
if he loses a step? What if he's not as physical? What if something in his game changes? What if Bradshaw gets hired by another team and his defense falls off? There's too many what ifs. Just take the first round pick, get out of the contract, and move on. You could do so much worse.
But it's not a bad contract to get out of.
That's why you're getting the first round pick. Because for the Flyers, it is, though, because they don't need that player. They don't need a $5 million defenseman right now while they're trying to retool. It's great. I love how he's playing. I hope they can bring in the next guy like that. But by the time they're ready to compete, he's going to be like 35, 34 years old. It's just not going to be worth it.
I just feel like
I like him too, Jim. Let him go.
But I just feel like you're not. But like if we're doing the rebuild and you want to maximize return on players, I don't get that thinking.
Because of the what if factor.
But you could say that about every single player.
Of course. That's why if there's an opportunity to trade him now, do it. He's a hot commodity right now. His play is great right now. I could argue his value might not be higher now than it would be in the offseason. His play could still fall off. He could have a little injury and then like the shine isn't as shiny. He's killing it right now. Teams get goofy at the deadline. You just don't want a late first round pick. You want to hold out in the offseason and maybe a team who's middle of the road. It's like Risto will turn our fortunes around. Well,
yeah, you'll have more suitors.
Who would that team be? Like you have to identify who you think that team would be. And that's a what if that maybe that team's not out there.
So like by the playoffs, there's pretty much like there are teams that would be eliminated for wanting to trade for Risto, right? Does that make sense? Like, because a team that's going to contend for a playoff spot, like let's say there's at least 6 to 8 teams by the trade deadline that are probably not going to compete for the playoffs. They're not going to be in the Risto sweepstakes, right? But let's say a team like Columbus, who is performing better than they should be, and they have a guy like Provorov who may sign somewhere else. Maybe they need a guy like Ristolainen, and their draft pick could be middle of the pack. They might not make the playoffs. I don't know what picks they have, but I think the list of suitors would be bigger in the offseason. And I guess that's it. Whereas at the trade deadline, it's going to be shrunk, and team payrolls or cap space is shrunk. So it really kind of limits you. Instead of having potentially 20 to 25 teams you could trade Risto to, you have probably 6 to 8, that are really going to have interest in them. And they're going to they're not going to give you maximum value for Risto at the trade deadline. That's just my opinion. I would wait.
It's possible.
I don't know what the rush is going to be.
I could argue that a team gets desperate enough, they offer you more than you expected. Because you can't tell me that the trade deadline hasn't resulted in some goofy trades.
It has, for sure.
And if you get a bidding war, especially if you have two teams that might see each other in the playoffs, and how important the physical factor is, and when you're in a 7-game series with somebody, having a guy like Risto on your team is going to come in handy. I don't know if Toronto can afford him, but he makes so much sense for their playoff woes. They're just too talented and skilled. They get out muscled and out checked, and they just, a team like that would overpay for Aristo. A team like half the Canadian teams that were listed would want to add a guy who's playing right now this good, because you don't know what the future holds. And I mean, I could see there being more suitors, but I could also argue his value's higher now. And you have teams that'll do something stupid now, just because in the offseason, there's no deadline. So things just kind of fizzle out. There's never like make a decision or he's going here. It just, sometimes we think something's going to happen. It's brewing. There's 5 teams involved. All of a sudden it's August and nothing happened. It just fizzles out. Nah, we don't want to give that much up. We changed our mind. We found this. We got this. We went with this guy. But the deadline, it's all now. This is it. And it's going to count for the playoffs. It's going to count for this year. So I think there's a definite rush factor there. And when you see who's interested in the player and who you could see in the playoffs, you have to take that in consideration. There's a lot of GMs whose jobs are on the line too. They don't give a shit about picks. So maybe they do. They just say, I'm going to go get Risto, add him to, he's exactly what we're missing from this team. And I'm going to pay to get him, because if it doesn't work out, I'm most likely going anyway. Or maybe he's a new guy and wants to make a splash. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons for people to go crazy at the deadline. And that's why they historically have.
Yeah. And I mean, you kind of said it in there. If someone's going to pay up for him, then perfectly fine moving Risto. But yeah, I'll agree with that. If someone's going to pay up, go ahead. It makes sense to move him.
Now, if he doesn't get moved, and he does get moved in the offseason, Jim's going to have some bragging rights.
No, I mean, either way, as long as they get what he's worth and they don't retain money. Because my whole thing is,
I agree with that.
He's legit. Like, when you watch him, he is legit. He's a legitimate top 4D that will help a playoff team. I'm just worried that, I already made my point, and I agree with you that if a team's going to pay up, then move him, but make sure you get what you want, because you don't really have to move him now.
Yeah, no, I'm not. So when I say you get out of the deal, I don't mean move him just to get out of the deal. But a year and a half ago, we would have gave up a 7th round pick just to move on from that deal. Now we're in the driver's seat, you know. So it's just like, hey,
exactly. You said it. Yeah. They should have deals on the table where they can pick and choose which one they want to make. It's not like, all right, we'll take the bare minimum kind of thing here. You know what I mean? So they're in the driver's seat. Drive up the price. These teams are offering it first. Okay, well, we need a first and second from you. Whatever. You know how it works.
Yeah, it's not crazy that something like that happens. I think it could happen in either the offseason or deadline, but something about the deadline, the literal deadline, with the teams that these playoff teams are looking at and who they're going to play, or who they tend to typically play every year because of the whole playoff structure. You're always seeing your division rivals, it's like, man, what were we missing last time? Like, I look at Risto, I'm like, what team couldn't use that?
Yeah.
Like, now is the time. Move him.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think we agree. If the right trade comes for Risto, go ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. All right, so we're an hour and 20 minutes in. Tay, I don't know if we've seen you in here before. Hopefully we see you in here again. Tay's comment is the defense market is so blah this year. I hope they get at least decent return value for Risto. Make sure you stop by again.
That tells me they should get something. If he's the top dog, like I was thinking, like, hey.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Tay, make sure you stop back in, man. It's good having you in here, or her. I'm not sorry, I didn't see your picture there. He, she, whatever. We appreciate you hanging out either way. It doesn't matter. So we're gonna wrap this one up, boys and girls. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and make sure to drop a comment in the YouTube comments or just chirp us, whatever you want. Let us know how you feel about the Risto trade deadline or off-season trade. What do you think about Maxim Shabalov? Was that it, Jack? Should the Flyers be players for Maxim Shabalov? What would you like to see them do at the trade deadline? Can they keep the good times rolling here on a 5-game unbeaten streak, 3 games this week? They have Detroit tomorrow night. I'll be in the house for a post-game show. So yeah, it's good. It's always great to hear from you guys. Vineet, Dave, Tay, Eric, Kenny, Teddy, everybody. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. It's always fun. You guys make this a lot of fun. Hanging out. So for Jack, I'm Jim. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, once again, give us a subscribe, follow on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, set alerts so you're the first to know when we drop a new show. For all of our latest episodes and articles and updates, head over to hwhockey.net. That's going to do it. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.